Jordan's King Abdullah has again asked US Secretary of State Antony Blinken to put pressure on Israel for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. Blinken was in the Jordanian capital Amman as part of a diplomatic tour of the region aimed at calming tensions. Washington has repeatedly rejected calls for a truce, but Blinken is underscoring the need to protect civilians and increase aid.
The US's top diplomat on a mad scramble to prevent the spread of the Israel-Hamas war. This time Antony Blinken is in Jordan's capital, Amman, as his Middle East mission becomes ever more urgent. Jordan's King Abdullah II urging the US Secretary of State to do all he can to push Israel for a ceasefire, and warning Blinken of what he calls the catastrophic repercussions of war in Gaza. Blinken's visit to a World Food Programme facility highlighting the worsening humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip.
We are intensely focused on the very difficult and deteriorating food situation for men, women and children in Gaza.
For these displaced Palestinians on the receiving end of this conflict in Gaza, help can't come soon enough. Some are counting on Antony Blinken himself to end the war. We hope that Antony Blinken and God, that Blinken looks at us with an eye of mercy, ends the war, ends the misery we're living in. We are a people that must live a free and dignified life. But as rescuers search through rubble after another Israeli airstrike in the south of the Gaza Strip, the prospect of peace seems hopeless. Blinken's Middle East tour, though, continues as he prepares to meet other leaders on his mission to try to control the fallout from this conflict.
German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock is also on a trip to the Middle East, making her fourth visit to the region since the October 7th attacks. Baerbock is due to hold talks with the Israeli President and Foreign Minister. Before leaving, the Foreign Minister called for an end to the cycle of violence in the Middle East. She said both sides would be able to live in peace only if, quote, each sees the suffering of the other. Right, well, let's get more on Baerbock's trip from our chief political correspondent, Nina Haase, who is standing by for us in Jerusalem. Nina, great to see you. So, Annalena Baerbock spoke prior to her departure to the Middle East. Tell us what she had to say.
Well, she stressed that it's exactly 3 months to the day that Hamas terrorism brought unimaginable suffering to this region, to Israel and to Gaza. And she said that that cycle of violence does have to stop. But she also said that there are people in Lebanon who are now concerned that there could be a potential escalation of the conflict to that region. She said it only takes a spark to set the entire region on fire, and that is not sustainable, that now we also must make sure that humanitarian suffering ends and that people do talk about ways to come to a sustainable peace again.
Nina, Baerbock is expected to hold talks with Palestinian Foreign Minister Riyad al-Maliki in the Palestinian territories on Monday. Tell us more about that planned meeting and what the reaction has been from Israel.
Yeah, that's right. She is going to meet with him. And of course, there are two topics on the agenda. One, the concrete steps that need to happen now during this current phase of the hot war, if you will. So how do people get the humanitarian aid? Germany is one of those countries that has been calling for more humanitarian pauses to let aid deliveries actually get into the Palestinian territories where so many people are threatened with starvation, that is not a situation that is sustainable. But of course, also now is the time, says Baerbock, the German foreign minister, to talk about the post-war Gaza situation and what is required to achieve such a situation. We heard the report about Antony Blinken, her American counterpart. Germany and the US do work hand in hand when it comes to trying and brokering peace here in this region. Germany says that 5 things essentially are needed to reach this sustainable peace and security for the region, that there can be no more terrorism threat from Gaza towards Israel, but at the same time also no more reduction of the Palestinian territories, especially Gaza, no occupation of Gaza, and then also there needs to be a strong Palestinian authority. So all these things will be on the agenda in the Palestinian territories.
Right, this isn't Baerbock's first trip to the region in recent months, as we've mentioned. Remind us what role Germany has taken as the Israel-Hamas war rages.
Germany feels very strongly affected itself. Germany, because of its history, because of the Nazi past, where Germans killed so many Jews, 6 million Jews, Germany says that Israel does have the right to exist as a state, and that any attempt to abolish the state of Israel must, of course, be counteracted. And so Israel, Germany says, is a country that has the right to defend itself. At the same time, Germany is also pointing the finger at all the humanitarian suffering that is going on, and is one of the biggest deliverers of humanitarian goods into the Palestinian territories, but also into countries like Egypt, where, for example, young babies are being treated that are coming out from Palestine.
Thanks, Nina. Chief Political Correspondent Nina Haase in Jerusalem for us.